Nadine, c'est ça?
Oui.
On s'est vu à Kigali, je pense.
Exactement.
Ça va,
Comment ça
Nadine?
va? So we are just so happy for you guys to be here. Welcome, mingle. Don't be with people you know. The whole point is not to be with people you know, guys. So meet people you don't know, connect, think about any businesses that you can create. You know, a gathering like this brings out something you don't know that can come out of it.
Don't talk to your friends. I know you want to enjoy the evening, but please meet someone else. And if you feel like this event is worth it, give us access to conversations, partnerships. How can we build together? How can we make our voices matter? How can we build allies across the continent? Because one person cannot change the world. We have to do it together. So I'm gonna call on my co-convener, Sally Namani, and she's gonna tell you a little bit about this event. But before Sally gets here, we're missing one of our co-conveners, Fatima Suleiman. She is a powerhouse CEO of Mr. Roof, a Rwandan-based company doing sustainable buildings, construction, and real estate. Fatima, I love you, we miss you, we wish you were here. Unfortunately, she got sick and missed her flight, and then now she's not here. So I want everyone to please give a warm welcome to Sally and just send love to Fatima. My name is Habiba A. Waziri, Managing Director of BGR Consulting, currently operating in Nigeria, Ghana, and Rwanda. I'm also one of the co-conveners of HER.Circle event in Abidjan by Heritage Collective. And I'm so excited to welcome you into our space. This launchpad, this exciting opportunity aims to close the gap between access and ambition for emerging African women on the continent and in the diaspora. I want to thank our sponsors for helping us put together this event, for believing in us even before proof of concept. Moneta Invest Africa, Conduit Group, Terra Gold Resources, to name a few. I can't wait to bring you on this journey with us and look forward to Africa's future led by her.
I think what works best when you look at how to unlock global partnerships, particularly on the African continent, is two things. I say the network always gets you to the door, but your competence gets you in it and keeps you there. So my biggest suggestion to young people on the continent, or anyone on the continent that's looking to expand the work that they do, work with more global companies like ours at Conduit Group, is really, one, make sure you network with the right people so you get in the room with, myself and others. But then secondly, once you're in that room, make sure that you're highly competent and you're really good at what you do, because global companies have their choice of talent all over the world, and you really need to make sure that whether you own a company, whether you're looking for employment, whether you're a creator, anything that you do, as long as you're the best at it, once you're in the room, your chances of success are much higher.
So, first of all, relationships matter. The conveners, are women that I've known for quite some time. I know they're driven, I know they have vision, and I know they do things that matter, And at Moneta, we care about things that matter only, right? No fluff. So we're aligned, and alignment is critical, So that's really why we're here. Now, the second reason is because, we have a fundamental agreement with the vision here. We also believe that, women must have more representation, in the tables that matter. We think that it will be a better representation of reality, of the population, and we do ourselves a big disservice, by, restricting ourselves from the benefits of having some of the most brilliant women, at the table when we're deciding on what to do. So we believe in this at Moneta. We've displayed this in our investing philosophy, the deals that we've done, the women we've backed. A lot of our customers on the women's side have tried to get credit, capital from everywhere, and have received no's everywhere. And Moneta is their yes, so that's kind of why we're here. It's just aligned with what we are. So in terms of gaps, there are many, and that's actually a tagline from the Moneta documentary, right? Africa is full of gaps. Now for women, the gaps are even more. right? Now there are gaps in women's funding in critical sectors like agriculture, like energy, like minerals and mining, logistics, all right? Even in manufacturing, of things that are important to women, healthcare. It's across board. Also in politics, because we have to remember that, elections are an expensive venture. Someone's got to put down the capital, right? So the gaps exist everywhere, and there are a lot of perceptions, that restrain the progress of financing women in these sectors, and a bit of fear, as well. Now, I'm a hardcore African, and I believe in a culture of balance. The home is even more important than the marketplace, in my understanding. So I don't want a world where, women become men. But I also don't want a world where we lose out, on the input, and the abilities, skills of women. So the idea is about identifying, the most critical women who must and absolutely must be at the table, and backing them. That's what we're about, at Monida, and we think that these sorts of initiatives, the Heritage Collective, takes us, a step closer in that direction.
Well, as you know, Timbuktu is about identifying key gaps in the market. And one of them is definitely around how we support more women entrepreneurs, particularly in terms of the startup space. As you know, female founders really struggle to get investment finance, and they're very much underrepresented. Secondly, what we also find is that there's a high dropout rate. So even when you run acceleration programs or other types of support programs and female founders initially sign up, over time they drop out, because as we all know, female founders suffer from the triple burden, right? You trying to basically build your business, you also have domestic responsibilities, and on top of all that, you have gender discrimination that gets in your way every step of the way. So co-creation is going to be about first helping us understand what are the challenges facing you on a day-to-day basis, not in theory, but in practice. How to balance your work responsibilities with domestic responsibilities. How to overcome gender discrimination so people take you seriously when you're pitching for a finance or you want to get that sales contract or supplier contract that they won't give you because they think you can't do it, right? And what additional support do we need to make sure that you succeed? And that is absolutely critical in terms of our mission, because as we all know, you can't do development effectively if women are not at the center of it. Well, we often say that there's not enough capital, but actually the challenge is there's a dearth of capital, particularly when you look at growth stage startups, those from Series A onwards, those who've got a little bit of traction in terms of their sales and seem like they're absolutely about to actually break the curve in terms of reaching exponential growth. The real challenge though is that there aren't enough of them. Why? Because we don't have a strong enough investable pipeline. And that's where Timbuktu comes in. We have to start even from early stage R&D. We don't invest enough in terms of African governments in research and development. Compared to our peers, if you look at the US, if you look at China, they invest billions into R&D. And they're already thinking about what's going to be the next innovation that's going to drive competitiveness in the future, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. We're still trying to catch up on AI. And if you look at the LML ratings, we're absolutely nowhere in terms of AI, right? So the first thing is, how do we start that pipeline even from that early stage? And the point is, it's not about a lack of innovative ideas. Africa's youth, Africa's women have a wealth of innovative ideas, but it's about helping brilliant people with great ideas create great businesses. And that's why we take our solution right through from early stage R&D, incubation, where we're helping you concretize your idea, make sure there's a value proposition, there's product market fit, and then we say, okay, you've got a good idea, it seems like there's a market for it, and there's a gap in the market, right? And then we help you accelerate that business, turbocharge it, because the idea is we don't want more survivalist companies. We have enough of those on the continent. We want companies that can operate at scale, that can take Africa to the world, and fundamentally change our trajectory for women, for youth, and all communities.
For women, I think first of all, when you look at women in leadership, just across the board, I just literally just finished, we're launching on Tuesday a report on women in the workplace in Africa, and across the countries we surveyed, women make up less than a third of leadership positions on the continent. And this is in a situation where 50% of graduates are women and the pipeline drops. So I think that's the first thing, there are not enough women. I think the second thing is when you think about structural and systemic barriers, the workplace and where decisions are made do not have enough women in order to push and advocate for, you know, whatever it is that we're championing, and things such as this collective. So I think first of all, we need more women. I think that's the first piece. Then you think about Africa, right, and think about a collective that is African. Again, you think about some of the barriers that we have and some of the structural issues that we have. I can spout a lot of numbers because that's what I do for a living. But I think about things such as global trade, where we're less than 3% of the world's trade. I think about things such as GDP, where we're less than 10% of world GDP, even though you think about where the bulk of population is, it's on the continent. So I think, you know, for us to get to that point where we transition from being African to being global, I think we need to now begin to own and shape our own destiny, and that's why I love what we're doing here, right? And some of that looks like financing our own development. You see what's happening in the world today with ODA coming down and the rest of the world saying that we're going to follow what the US is doing in terms of development aid and development financing for Africa. I think we need to begin to own and shape our own development. And you look at some of the signs that tell us it's possible. You look at things such as how much of funds are trapped in pension funds sitting on the continent and not investing on the continent. You look at things such as actually critical minerals and how much of the world's deposit of critical minerals are found on the continent. So when you put all of that together, I think that there is a bright future for the continent. I think there's a bright future for African collectives. I think the more we take and own and shape our own destiny, the more we are, they say, you know, that's saying that the future is created by those who shape it, or something along those lines. But the more we do that, and the less we wait for people to do things for us, I think the more we can really move from, you know, local to African to global. And you're seeing that. I was looking at the Met Gala last week, right, and saw like Chimamanda, you saw African designers being one on the red carpet. The creative economy is one where you're seeing a lot of Africans. So I think it's possible, especially when we have excellence on the continent that can be exported elsewhere. I think 2025 is a very, very interesting year. We've seen a lot has happened, and we're only in May, but South Africa is hosting the G20 this year, so I do think that that's something where it's an absolutely critical opportunity to take advantage of, and I think it's in November. I know that's all the way far in November, so G20 is one. There are a few Africa-focused events such as Gabi in New York, the UN General Assembly, and so on and so forth. So those are things that, you know, could be interesting as well. And then I honestly think I was looking at the delegates, the speakers who are here in Abidjan for this event, and I was like, wow, this is actually a seriously great caliber event. And I'm, you know, so look, there's tons and tons of events. I think it's being very targeted and focused about what you want out of this event. You know, what is the kind of stage you want? How niche do you want it to be? How broad do you want it to be?
What types of projects or frameworks? It's a pretty loaded question. And I say that because I feel like there's so much I actually see it the reverse, right? Not even so much how AFC can use the collective as an implementation partner, but actually how the collective can use AFC as an implementation partner. And why do I say that? I say that because when you think about the work AFC does, which is financing infrastructure, closing the infrastructure gap on the continent, we see the world sort of in a very black and white way. And what do I mean by that? Infrastructure is infrastructure. It's pretty clear cut in terms of what we focus on and what our strategy is. Now, when we think about why we focus on infrastructure and the long-term development impact we're hoping to have, I actually think the collective can help provide color to AFC in terms of how we prioritize what we prioritize and how we think about the long-term effect and impact and who are the right type of people we should be partnering with to have that long sustaining impact. You know, when we think about the work we do, we say implementing Africa, implementing change, we say, you know, sustainability, and everything we do, we think about the long-term impact. But because of what we do is such large-scale work, sometimes you forget about the individuals, or you forget about the bridges that you're building that will drive new aspects of the economy. And if we think about what we can learn from the collective and the suite of women and the various institutions and organizations and industries that they represent, there's probably a lot of color we can get in terms of understanding the impact that we have. So yes, it can work in the way you said it, but I actually think perhaps there's an opportunity to have some type of convening power with AFC to talk about what does our portfolio look like? What is our strategy over the next 5 to 10 years? What are the specific regions that we're looking to focus on? And how do we think we can be even more intentional about what we're trying to do with input from the female leaders within the collective?
Hi, I'm Sally Nnamani, and I'm one of the co-conveners of the HER.Circle created by the Heritage Collective. We are so honored and inspired by the group that we had today at our inaugural event right here in Abidjan in Ivory Coast. We are a collective and a movement that's really centered on expanding our network and sharing our expertise and getting more ambitious African women on global stages and in decision-making rooms where they can really forge their own paths and be able to be decision makers and be part of the future of the continent. We know that there's so many African women who have the talent, who have the ambition, but just don't have the network. And we want to focus on those under-networked women and use our platform to inspire and, more than anything, to catalyze their efforts, their talents, and their work. And at the start of my intro, I didn't get to introduce who I am and what I do. I work in sports and peace building and impact investing. I'm very much driven by the power of sport and the power of capital in opening up new opportunities and new possibilities for people who may not have considered themselves being in the driver's seat. I believe that the future of our continent is really centered on the right people, especially women, having access to capital, support, and an ecosystem and a community of other women who believe in them and who champion them. And this is what HER.Circle represents. We are grounded on 3 pillars: visibility and voice, access and exposure, capacity and collective growth. And so we are taking HER.Circle to as many global stages and introducing this concept and expanding our networks, sharing our expertise, and getting more women in the rooms and in the decision-making seats. So stay tuned. We have a lot more in store and we can't wait to share all of that with you.
Je m'appelle Huguette Moutonné-Bitega. J'ai une compagnie qui s'appelle Engage Africa. Et l'idée, c'est de changer vraiment comment le monde voit l'Afrique et comment les Africains se voient eux-mêmes. Et ça veut dire qu'on doit penser à se voir d'une façon collective, à partager, à travailler ensemble. Et vraiment, cette mentalité de pouvoir qu'on soit tous ensemble, qui est en fait le continuement de l'héritage, donc l'héritage collectif, qui est un mouvement que je supporte, que je pense fort et que je suis tellement fière de faire partie parce qu'on est des femmes incroyables, des femmes fortes, des femmes qui pensent à l'une et l'autre, des femmes qui s'aident en fait à être meilleures d'entre elles. C'est-à-dire que who elevate one another. Et c'est ça en fait la communauté que je veux faire partie. Une communauté qui pense à connecter les uns les autres. J'ai eu de la chance de connaître des femmes incroyables qui ont tissé des chemins pour moi. Et donc de faire partie des jeunes femmes qui sont ambitieuses et qui veulent absolument en fait aider les unes les autres pour qu'on puisse avancer, travailler ensemble, en fait ouvrir des portes pour l'une et l'autre et qu'on soit ensemble, c'est ça l'idée de l'héritage. J'aime ce groupe de collectifs, d'héritage collectif, que ce soit le cercle, parce que nous avons vraiment marché, on a décidé de faire tout ça par la foi. Et le fait qu'on s'est fait confiance, on n'a pas réfléchi où est-ce qu'on va trouver les moyens, mais les moyens sont venus. Parce que quand on a des femmes fortes qui travaillent ensemble, qui viennent ensemble, les choses se font tout seules. Je suis très fière des femmes avec lesquelles j'ai travaillé sur ce projet. Ce n'est que le début, donc stay tuned. Attendez la suite, ça va être incroyable.
And so we are honored that you all invested early, and shout out to our sponsors, Monita, I see you all. Thank you for being here and for investing before you even saw the proof of concept. So we're incredibly grateful.
We know that everyone's a bit tired, but this event was very important to us, and I'm sure now it'll be important to you, or at least that's what we hope.
Should I go ahead?
We want to thank you all for taking the time out to come and just celebrate this collective, celebrate this idea, celebrate this launch, and to just be part of the story, or even be the drivers of this story, because you can't do it alone. And we want to cheers. I hope if you don't have a glass, it's fine. Do it with your phone. I just want us to just cheers to sisterhood, to legacy, to collective growth, to Africa, to women, and to the future.
Santé, santé, santé à tous. Merci beaucoup d'être là.
Have a good night. Enjoy. We walked on faith, not on wisdom.
We're bold, we are courageous, we are audacious, and we are the Heritage Collective.
Ensemble, nous gagnons. Together, we just win.
Voila! Voila! Voila!